Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the TTE podcast. And one of the things that I'm really proud of with this podcast is that this kind of started off as one thing and has sort of evolved into another. And what this has sort of evolved into is a safe place to have a tough conversation. So I think today, in light of two of the more large and explosive sports stories that have hit this week, I thought it would be good to run the four corner offense here and kind of unpack some of this, because I think these things are require some unpacking. I don't think it's things that are as straightforward as what they appear, or as much as what the media narrative might be. So with that, Brian, Pat, Alan, good evening, guys. Salutations, all that good stuff.
Good evening.
Hello.
So the title of this episode is the four corner offense against John Gruden and Kyrie Irving. Not that we have beef with them, but I kind of want to unpack it a little bit. So I guess we just start with Gruden. So I guess, and Pat, I'll start with you. Just your initial thoughts about what happened last Friday with the comments, and then how it all unfolded in terms of him getting to coach the game Sunday, the other shoe dropping on Monday, and then now, by Wednesday, Tampa Bay has removed him from the Ring of Honor. Like, this thing moved, in a lot of ways, it just moved faster than I think anybody could really appreciate. So I'm just curious, and I want everybody to kind of jump in on this, but Pat, I'll start with you. Just your overall, what is your thought about all of this?
Well, where do I start? I guess what I'd like to know is how all of this happened. And I guess we were talking about it in a text thread where someone audited his email was it part of the Washington Redskins investigation? I'm still trying to figure that part out.
That is correct. So for context, for people who don't know, the Washington football team was under investigation for the culture that ran through the organization. So that investigation wrapped up in July, and then that investigation contained roughly 650,000 emails. Some of those emails were leaked to the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, and they included emails that John Gruden, coach of the Las Vegas Raiders now, which is still a weird thing to say out loud. I feel like there'll always be Oakland in my mind. But emails that he wrote 10 years ago had very disparaging comments, first about the head of the Players Association, who was a black man, and then later about basically any marginalized group, whether you were a woman, whether you were gay, whether you were feeling a certain way about concussions and player safety. Like, nobody was spared in the breath of Gruden spewing all this evil stuff. So I just wanted to set that context. So I'll, Pat, I'll go back to you now. Yeah.
I guess. So did he get caught with, was he sending an email to someone that worked at the Redskins? Is that what's going on?
He was emailing the president of the club, explaining various positions that he had or various beefs he had with people or topics.
I see. So he wasn't coaching. He was an ESPN employee at that time, right? Wasn't he?
He was the lead. Yes. He was the lead analyst for Monday Night Football. He was basically John Madden.
Mike Tirico.
Okay, I probably should have connected all these dots beforehand. I guess. Well, I suppose I'm not shocked. I think I told you guys that, I think Gruden is just one of many people that coach football either at the, peewee level, high school, college. This is a mentality, unfortunately, that has been, prevalent in our society for forever, really, when you think about it. So was I shocked to hear that John Gruden, a guy from, I think he's from Ohio, right? Isn't he from Sandusky? Yeah, but he's an Ohio guy. Am I surprised to hear that, he carried on like this? Absolutely not. I think every white male my age or even younger has a John Gruden in their family somewhere, right? Whether that's your dad, your uncle, grandpa. These are the kind of tropes and things that unfortunately continue to be in the mainstream. Well, not mainstream, but in this case, conversations behind closed doors, not in front of people. And I don't know. I guess my take is good riddance, really. I guess, but I also look at the other side of it, and I see stuff that happened so long ago, and I wonder, well, geez, has he had an opportunity to change his mind on that? Chances are probably not, right? I mean, the only reason we're having this conversation is because this stuff came out, and who knows? Maybe they'll have emails from last season or the season before. I have no idea where he's talking like this, but I guess lesson learned: your work email is not private. It never is, and don't say shit like this to people on any work email.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best PSA that you could put out there. Alan, what were your initial thoughts about all this?
Well, yeah, so there's been a lot. My initial thought was similar. Not overly shocked. I also thought, and Dennis, I have a feeling that you've got some emotion this way. I thought it was a pretty neat deflection that a really, really wealthy owner whose entire team's culture is being attacked and has been attacked for multiple years. And it's a coach who's underachieved since one Super Bowl win and makes a ton of money for a flagship franchise is the one who ends up the big loser out of it. Probably not coincidental there. I think it's, and I'm not here to do John Gruden any favors because I mean, I was in the Keyshawn Johnson camp that I thought he won with Tony Dungy's team.
You thought he was a fraud.
Yeah, I thought he was lucky as shit that the Raiders center lost his freaking mind the night before the Super Bowl. And,
I forgot about that. Yeah, he did Roberts, go. He went to Tijuana or something, didn't he? Like the night before the game.
So I've never been a Gruden guy. I never bought into all that, and especially I get the. When you see a Greenwald or some of these other people defending the right to evolve, I buy that argument a lot more when it's evolving from age 16 to 22, 18 to 25. Because we were all, I mean, if you haven't evolved since you were 16, 17, because I mean, we were all morons back then, right? I mean, hell, we were morons when we were 22. But we're all different people than we were then. So I'm okay with that right to evolve idea, but I think it's different when you've been, and this can veer into that Urban Meyer lane a little bit too, where it's different when you create this public persona of some great leader of men. At that point, now you've kind of forfeited your right to just claim that, I'm a different person than I was in 2011 because you were supposedly a leader of men back then and before then. So that was kind of my knee-jerk reaction. Not shocked. There's probably a whole lot of real guilty people that aren't going to get the punishment they deserve, and I think if Gruden had been to the playoffs the last couple of years with the Raiders, that I don't even know if these would have come out.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I do think that great man theory of leadership, the idea that you can move people to do things that they wouldn't normally do through the sheer will of your personality, I think Gruden fits into that. And that's an effective way to lead, both good and bad, because I can cite examples of leaders who were charismatic who sort of led from both perspectives. Brian, what was your initial thought around all of this?
I'll vary a little bit. I think I'm probably going to hit a lot of the same, tones that you guys hit. But my first thought was, man, what would Al Davis do in this situation? Because Al Davis was definitely the type of guy who was very litigious, didn't really care what the league office said about anything. He was going to do whatever he wanted. And if he wanted Gruden to stay, and he felt that strongly, would Gruden stay? I'd like to think that probably if Al Davis is there, I think Al Davis would be. I know he could be stubborn, but I think like he would be smart enough to realize like this is not the hill to die on. Not for that.
If you dig in, sorry to interrupt you, but if you dig into, I know I mentioned The Athletic here and there, and they probably ought to start paying me for the freaking plugs I throw. But Marcus Thompson is a guy who writes for them, and he's an Oakland guy, and he has written at length that what the Raiders once meant to community and all of that. Despite the Al had that reputation of just being this big rebel. And so MT's take was kind of like, Al Davis probably wouldn't have hired him in the first place, and his ghost was probably pissed that he got hired in the first place.
Well, that's a good perspective too, because I also thought about like the other thing is if you think of the legacy of Al Davis in terms of like he hired Amy Trask, like one of the first women executives in football, and certainly he hired Art Shell, it's the first black head coach. So I feel like on some level, for what he had done, he probably would not have, probably wouldn't have put his, like I said, it's not a hill for him to die on. But my initial thought was, like you guys said, I wasn't shocked. As my wife would say, color me surprised, right? That somebody feels that way. But I kind of agree with you, Pat, in a sense that, yes, you should not do that on your work email. You probably shouldn't put those things in print. And really, in theory, you should not be having those kind of, in a perfect world, nobody would be thinking like that. And we may expand on it or maybe talk about it too. But if you put those things in there 10, 11 years ago or however long it was, but let's say you're not that person now. Let's say you had some epiphany, you evolved, you've had some things in your life that, certainly that's your worst public moment. People are going to see that. But is he that way? I don't know. Only the people around him could say that. But if he was different, I don't know that there's going to be an opportunity for him to show that he's changed. And just from a leadership perspective, I feel like Mark Davis probably would have let him slide, or he probably would have kept his job if it was just the comments about the union guy, about DeMaurice Smith. He probably was like, okay, we could probably weather this, because it didn't seem like they were going to do anything. At least it didn't seem like it. But then once that avalanche hit on Monday, or the other stuff that came out, I was like, okay, this is not something that that we can get past. And just like you said, from a leadership perspective, you can't, with a league that's over 70% black, to have that and then also make the comment about using, gay slurs as well. And then now you have the first openly active gay player on your roster. There's no way that you can lead that team. Like there's just, I just don't see a way that you could have led that team. So he had to go.
Yeah, he had to go. And I will tell you guys, my initial thought to this was there's more to this story than just him making this comment in an email 10 years ago. Because my first thought was, why was this coming out now? And using history as an indicator, I've learned in situations like this not to overreact initially. And my thought goes to the Duke lacrosse players who were accused of raping this girl, when come to find out they never raped that girl at all. And those guys had their lives turned upside down as a result of that experience. So my initial thought was, okay, let's wait a minute here. It's wrong what he said and everything else. But then when Monday came and they broke in the middle of the Monday Night Football game to say he was out because of all these other comments, then I started thinking, like, big picture, like, who is leaking this information? Why are they leaking it? And why are we talking about John Gruden if the source of this information has to do with a team on the other side of the country? So having an opportunity to sort of digest it all, and this is kind of what I want to unpack here. I guess I have two initial thoughts. Now, the first one is, this seems to be a situation where this investigation ended in July, So the NFL was sitting on all of this information, but you purposefully leaked this to get rid of Gruden. So the first thing I want to know is, why did you do that? And secondly, it appears that you're protecting someone. Who are you protecting? Because it came out today that Adam Schefter, and for those that don't know, Adam Schefter is a reporter for ESPN who breaks big time stories in real time. He got not accused, but there is email evidence that he forwarded a story that he was going to run 10 years ago and gave it to the president of the Washington team and say, make any adjustments to this before I send it out because you're my editor, which is highly unethical as a journalist. You don't give sources that type of oversight over the work you're about to put out into the public. So it just seems like there's a whole other agenda here. And Howard Bryant, who is a journalist, pointed something out, Brian, I think you sent to me, which is something akin to, this is nothing more than the power structure working with other power structures to protect the power that they have. Because now everybody wants to see all these 650,000 emails to see what's in them. And I agree at this point, like, we should see it, but I'm not confident that we're ever going to see it, because honestly, this is a league that's full of rich white men, and this might be how rich white men talk when no one's around. That's sort of my first thought. And then my second thought is, John Gruden, to me, I thought his comment was very, very revealing about, I don't have a blade of racism in me. And then the other comments come out. John Gruden strikes me as the type of guy who gets mad and says the first thing that comes to mind, but genuinely believes that he's not racist or homophobic. And the only person I could compare him to is the guy who used to own Papa John's. I believe that guy in his heart believes he's not racist, but if that guy gets pissed, he starts spewing a bunch of shit. And I'm curious what you guys, and I just open it up to you guys, do you feel as if the NFL has some sort of hidden agenda here? And if they do, what do you think, and I know I'm asking you to speculate, but what do you think they have to hide here? Because John Gruden making comments in an email 10 years ago, this doesn't, the math is off to me. So I'm curious. I'll open up to you guys. What do you guys think?
So I'm going to have a lot of fun with this one, because I think about this a lot.
I try to tee these things up for you.
I was going to say, let me get my drink. I'm cozied in for a while.
I thought this was a J. Edgar Hoover shot across the bow from the league office to a lot of people to say, hey, just as a reminder, we can turn the Twitter universe onto any one of you that we want at any time,
without fear of repercussion. Like, who's there to hold them accountable? Do you know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where, like, you need lawyers for your lawyers. It's that sort of thing.
Yeah, agreed. And it's a reminder, when you. So that's the big thing, is I think there's something, when you think about like what's the old saying, like how do you figure out who's really in control? Who is it that's not getting criticized? And I think that, like I said, I think it's just kind of a reminder to some folks of kind of keeping people in line, making sure they understand that they've got dirt on a lot of folks, but from a average, but that doesn't really affect us. I mean, it's just a matter of who's going to get canned for something stupid down the road. I don't really care which one of these rich people goes down next. But the Schefter thing was what jumped out at me, because it was confirmation of what a lot of us already knew about how I think the Red Sox and the Boston media were the most famous for it. It's like the Red Sox would trade a player, and you would just sit back and wait for all of the terrible articles from the Boston Globe to cascade down about they're a clubhouse cancer. Oh, they didn't do this. Oh, they, kick dogs on the way into the fucking stadium. Just all. I mean, that these guys get access at a price, and that price is that they carry the water for these guys. And it's I mean, I know you guys get tired of hearing me talk. I'm not going to say the certain brand name because Patrick will lose his shit if I do. But just the
shout out Nike.
I'm not going to lose my shit.
But the way when somebody's getting real positive press, or the press is really pushing a certain narrative, they're not doing it for fun. They're doing it because they've been instructed to do that, or else they will lose their access.
Well, I mean, to add to this, are any of us shocked that a league that's basically all male driven, as far as top down ownership, most of the front office, all of the coaches, I think there might be one female coach on Detroit or San Francisco, but are we surprised?
There's like 5 or 6. There's like 5 or 6.
Okay, so there's a few female assistant coaches, but that's just in the last few years. Are we surprised that this kind of behavior goes on company email? I mean, are we really that shocked by it? I wasn't. I was like, oh, okay, so he probably shouldn't have done that, but he probably never thought that any of that would ever come to light. So I guess that's what.
As a football coach, Pat, I think you're right. I think he's thinking, "Oh, this is just email." I think for those of us that actually work in the real world, that was another initial thought. I was like, you can't be this dumb to put it in a company email. But then I thought, you know what? You're a football coach. You're not thinking about company email and this coming back on you. And you don't live in that space. You live in cover 2 and 3rd and 3. That's the world you live in.
And he probably chicken pecked it too, like with the fingers. Like he probably typed it out, just jabbing at it.
Hunt and peck.
Yeah.
I think, guys, what's probably, aside from the smoke screens around, or the warning shots to other people, the shit that started all of this is they were borderline forcing their freaking cheerleaders into prostitution.
Oh yeah.
A big part of these emails were, they're being forced to pose topless and this and that. And my guess is there's a portion of this that's just trying to, let's pick a couple of heads to roll. So maybe people will forget about the fact that we were having our biggest, season ticket holders. We were holding, freaking meetings with these guys where cheerleaders making, $17 a game or something obscenely ridiculous are being forced to come in and essentially give these guys lap dances. So I think they're really trying to get people to forget what the WFT was really up to this whole time.
Well, to that point, when Dennis, you were making a comment about, is there something, who are you protecting? On some level, I feel like they're protecting Daniel Snyder, because the NFL does not really just take teams away. Like in the way that they did Sterling, for sports is pretty rare, but the NFL, they've never really dealt with something like that. Maybe the dude from Carolina, the old man from Carolina, they took his team.
Jerry Richardson. Yeah, that was real. That was real hush hush in terms of
that was very stealth.
The sexual harassment and things he was doing.
And my understanding was it wasn't just a one-time thing. There was a culture of it. So they just came in there and quietly said, "We found somebody to buy your team. So this is happening." And I think, to your point, Alan, I think it's you that said it, but basically, okay, because we don't want this at all. So what's the best way to change the subject here? Oh, we got these emails from Gruden. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to let Gruden take the fall. He's conversing with somebody who's already been fired from the Washington football team. So that guy doesn't work there anymore.
But Brian, can I stop you right there? Can I just challenge that for a second? I think that makes sense, except the public had largely forgot about this investigation. So at some point, it's like, if the public forgot, what do you gain by leaking it? Because I do think the Sterling thing has changed the culture. Because now, given the world we live in today, If they thought that they could leak this and then put this back under the rug, they grossly miscalculated how the world works today. The public, by and large, is not going to stand for them sitting on close to 750,000 emails and just say there's nothing to see here. Like, this wasn't a story until they leaked it.
Well, here's the thing. So here is, and certainly we're all, conspiracy Bill hat. Remember that guy? So is it possible that, I think it was the New York Times that leaked the DeMaurice Smith thing, right? So it is possible that somehow, some way, some reporter got a hold of that. So all it takes is one. And then once that comes out, and then they find out that this is out there, is it possible they're like, okay, well, there's blood in the water. We got to throw some chum out there, because obviously people are going to start connecting the dots. So, well, why are you looking at an email from Gruden from 10 years ago to a Washington Redskin executive, right? And then, because that's part of discovery, right? So it's possible that maybe somehow some intrepid reporter got their hands on something, and then the league was figured out, okay, well, they're going to they connected the dots to it, and then they just threw a little chum out there to kind of get people off the scent. So yeah, Gruden is collateral damage, Schefter's collateral damage. It's possible there's going to be other people that are going to be collateral damage. But the league has already said they're not releasing anything else from that. And I also heard today, I can't remember one of the radios or pods I listened to to quite a few, but it was something to the effect of when they did this, when they hired the outside counsel to do this investigation, supposedly, and I find this hard to believe, but this was all one of those investigations where they did it with Chauncey Billups when Portland hired him to be the head coach. They did an investigation, but it was one of those things where they did no documentation of it. It was all verbal. So like there's no like trail, so to speak, which I find that hard to believe, something of this magnitude. You got almost 1 million emails, which I find that would be hard to believe. But on the same time, like, why would you not want to keep, emails aside, why would you not want to keep records of the investigation itself?
Listen, this is a sports pod, but tip of the cap to you for using the word intrepid in the right context. That's that's impressive. Still, tip of the cap to you.
Hey, Dennis,
you know what? I had to bring my A game, so.
Dennis, I do like where you went there, though, because, me being who I am, I kind of immediately go to that shots across the bow by the higher ups type of angle. I appreciate you bringing in the potential angle of what if this leak is more of the NFL Edward Snowden style type of thing of, hey, everybody forgot about this shit, but I can throw something out there that's going to get this going again, to make people aware of what's going on. I think that's an interesting concept to kick around.
Yeah, I just think there's a bigger story here than Gruden making all these terrible comments in an email 10 years ago. And the other thing I think about is the one newspaper in this country that could devote resources, because newspapers have disappeared across the country, but the one newspaper that could devote resources to really do the type of investigative journalism that's necessary to really go through all of this is the Washington Post, home of the Pentagon paper, all of that stuff. And then you take a step back. Well, who owns the Washington Post? Jeff Bezos. And Bezos he's been wanting to buy that team for forever. So now I've got a rich white guy pissing contest where this guy's trying to expose all of the dirt to be able to buy it at a cheaper price, which is what you would do when you have leverage. And so John Gruden, I don't feel bad for Gruden in what he said. He gets everything that he deserves, but he's collateral damage in this. I feel like everybody's focusing on this and not on the real story, which is this is the way that rich white people talk when no one is looking and they think they're safe. And now Bezos might have all of this evidence and use it as leverage against the NFL to buy a team, and they don't want him as part of their club. To me, if that's what this is, then now I want it all exposed. Does Jerry Jones talk like this? Does Robert Kraft talk like this? Was Jay-Z hired as a palate cleanser to get everybody to calm down after Kaepernick? And here's the thing. If Gruden can say all this stuff in an email, be the guy for Monday Night Football, coach the Raiders, $100 million contract, but you guys, and said all this stuff about Eric Reed, but you guys won't let Kaepernick back in? Like... the whole shit is just like I feel like we're just focusing on the wrong thing.
Well, and that's the thing I also thought about too, was that if they have all this, if they're pulling up emails about Gruden from 10 years ago saying all kinds of crazy, wild shit, what is that discovery if Kaepernick really took it to court? Like those.
That's why they settled out of court with Kaepernick, because once the discovery hit, we can't have this out in the public. So yes, we will. But
that just whets the appetite of, because you have that what if. So that just whets the appetite of, well, what else is in these emails? Right? I don't think that they're ever going to cave. I don't think the NFL is going to cave to the pressure to release those emails. They've already said they're not going to.
That's where we need Julian Assange to come in and get them for us and then post it.
They're on a server somewhere. You can't tell me they printed out close to 1 million emails. They're on a server somewhere.
Oh, they are for sure.
Yeah, some DC law office or something. Yeah, it's there.
But then you got to free Julian Assange. I think he's in custody somewhere, isn't he?
I think he's in Russia, isn't he? No, hold on. No, it's like
that's Snowden.
Oh, that's Snowden. Yeah, he's somewhere in Europe somewhere.
I thought they got him. Never mind. That's a whole other thing.
Yeah, that's a whole weird. Yeah, that's a whole other thing.
Pod.
Yeah, completely. But to me, and so I'm just curious what you guys think. But I just think there's a bigger story here than Gruden and what he said. What he said was horrible. It can't be, challenged. It can't. You can't like defend it. And I've seen a lot of people on Twitter like, well, I can't believe, like, if you're going to get rid of him, then you got to get rid of this. It's like, hold on, this false equivalency has to stop. There has to be a recognition that the world's changed and that people's humanity is to be cherished and valued. And he didn't do that. And he can't be a leader of men or a leader in general. And anybody who's listening to this, I would encourage you to listen to like the 2-minute clip from the Chargers head coach about what it means to be a coach and the privilege and the honor it is that someone would actually call you coach. Like, I'm 42 years old and I want to run through a wall for that coach. Like, he has it right on so many things, and he's a young guy. But I just think there's a bigger story here, and you sacrifice Gruden almost when you didn't have to, because everybody forgot about this story. And now that it's out there, and then for the NFL to say, well, we're not going to release anything else, but then you release the Schefter stuff today, it's like, I don't understand here. And now that it's out in the ether, we live in a real conspiracy theory sort of world now. Like, obviously there's an agenda here. And so I just don't know. So I know people, this might be a controversial statement for some, but this is why representation matters. This is why people need to be at the table with diversity of thought at a minimum, because there are a lot of people that are kind of winking and nodding saying, yeah, Goodell, shut all this down. Like, we don't need this out here. And it's like, yeah, but you still want money from gay people. You still want money from black people. You still want money from Jewish people, but it's okay to insult them behind closed doors. I think like Sterling proved, I think we're starting to. We're not there, but we're starting to at least be willing publicly to have a conversation to say that shit ain't right.
To your point about representation, and then I'll back out here, but I saw on SportsCenter last night, they said that Jerry Jones made some I don't say weak comment, but he really didn't say anything. But the owner the first owner that said that, yeah, Gruden had to go, ironically, was the owner of the Jaguars, which is ironic because, well,
Because he's Pakistani. Like, he's the only person of color in the room.
No. I'm talking about look at his head coach's situation.
His head coach was playing tiddlywinks at a bar.
And now you're saying somebody else's coach has got to go? Like,
no, hold on. In defense, what Urban Meyer does in his private life is not a fireable offense. I don't. True. In this particular instance, I don't think him being fired. That's a bit of a false equivalency for me. Although the irony's not lost on me, I will say.
It all depends on what's in his contract, though, Dennis. I mean, if he violated something in his contract, they could show cause for that and can his ass. I don't know what's in it, but
that alone should not do it. But that plus, if you've lost your locker room, that's a one-way ticket out. Like that incident aside.
Bingo, that's it right there.
I think it's the two things added together equal, yeah, this might not be a good look. But that by itself, because he's not the first coach to do that. Martellus Bennett said on Twitter that he was...
Please tell this story. This is funny.
He said he played on a team where a coach and a player were sleeping with the same woman. And the coach was upset because he really loved this woman, and the player was just like, yeah, that's just my plaything. Right? Like, so this stuff happens all the time. So Urban's not the first. He's not going to be the last. Why you let it happen in your own restaurant is a different discussion. But it's just it's not a foreign concept.
What wasn't Buddy Ryan's kid sucking toes or something? I mean, that was a few years ago.
There's that too.
Now, my favorite is I told you guys, my favorite is Rick Pitino in a white suit in the back of a bar in Louisville, having sex with a woman that's not his wife on a pool table in the back of a campus bar. Like, you're right. This happens all the time.
Oh, yeah. He's a classy guy.
Yeah. Yeah. The irony's not lost on me, but I also thought it was ironic that the only person willing to speak up that was an owner was the one owner that was Pakistani. The one person that was not a white male. Everybody else kind of toed the company line and kind of shut up about it. But I just don't think... I mean, it would not surprise me if these guys start stalking them through airports and in their personal lives like they're a senator from Arizona who won't answer very specific questions about legislation. But I guess I'll just wrap this by saying, what do you guys think happens next? Do you think that, I'm not naive enough to think that, no one's going to watch on Sundays or the players are just going to go on strike for a week. I'm not that naive, but I'm curious, like, do you think more will come out? Do you think the NFL will just take an iron curtain to the whole thing and nothing's getting out anymore and we got to move on? And, I'm curious what you guys think about what comes next, because I just don't think you can put the toothpaste back in the tube here. I think people are going to keep asking questions and badgering them until all the information comes out.
Well, I think the NFL will do the best they can to not allow that to happen. I mean, it's not in their interest to show all of the email to the public, but I think they'll do what they can. I mean, the problem is their product. It still entertains a large majority of males between the ages of 20 and 60. So that's a large amount of people you're talking about. So ultimately, I don't think anything's going to happen from it, unfortunately. It's something should, but my guess is that it'll probably be swept under the rug. You got your Patsy and John Gruden. This is your fall guy. Well, for whatever reason, he's the guy. And that's that.
Yeah, I think they're going to do their best to keep it under wraps. They're not going to release anything. And if they do, they're going to be drug kicking and screaming. I think the NFLPA has already filed suit to have access to them or try to get them released. And certainly the women who filed suit against the Redskins or the Washington football team, they filed suit as well. So I think they're going to fight it out in court. But until they are made to turn it over or release it, they're not. They're going to be mum on it and say, that's it.
Yeah. If it's a league thing, if this was a rogue, if this was an Edward Snowden, we might have some more fun to come. I doubt that. I think I mentioned my theory. If the Gruden thing was a shot across the bow of a lot of people, a lot of coaches and employees, I think the Schefter thing was the same for the media. So that, hey, you may come forward with something, but we will end your career. I don't think Schefter's career is over, but only because he won't lose his access because he's going to fall in line. If it's so I think it probably ends here. Like I said, unless the conspiracy theorists who live among us are pleasantly surprised and this is actually somebody different who's throwing this shit out here and there, then it could get interesting. But my instinct is it probably dies pretty soon.
I will say, and I think I'll just end it here, is that I think the interesting thing about the Schefter piece is not that it has a chilling effect on those who report on the NFL, but I could see this having a chilling effect on a company like ESPN, that it forces a company like ESPN or Fox or CBS or whoever to toe the line to say, you guys can't keep making this thing a story. You guys have to kill it on your end, and that includes killing it with your reporters. And that is not supposed to be how journalism works.
True. Because at the end of the day, they are still broadcast partners. So
exactly. Because if you remember, ESPN was running all those stories years ago about, when concussions first came into the spotlight, about they knew about the damage of concussions and were doing nothing. And they quietly went to ESPN and basically told them, you got to turn the dial back.
Forget that. Remember Playmakers?
Yes, Playmakers. Yes, I remember that.
The NFL came in and said, "You're going to stop that right now," and ESPN stopped it.
It reminded me of that old. Now I'm showing my age. That show on HBO, First and 10, where every now and then OJ or Marcus Allen or somebody would cameo on the show. Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to cover, because this was the other huge story this week, was Kyrie Irving. And just to be able to set the context for people. So Kyrie Irving is the starting point guard for the Brooklyn Nets. And Kyrie Irving has, because he's playing in Brooklyn, the city of New York, has basically mandated that for all indoor gatherings, you got to be vaccinated. So he has decided that he is not going to get vaccinated. But the reason why he's not getting vaccinated is not because he doesn't believe in the science and not because he thinks it won't work or will get him sick. He's not doing it because he thinks it's unfair that people are losing their jobs because they're being, and I'm using air quotes here, forced via a mandate to get vaccinated. So he feels like he can make a difference and he needs to take a stand. So he is not going to get vaccinated so he can give, quote, a voice to the voiceless. So in response to this, the Nets have decided that technically he could be a part-time player and just play road games. So the Nets have decided, no, you're not playing at all until you get vaccinated, because it's in the best interest of the team and our organization. You can't be a part-time player. You're either all in or all out. This is not the hokey pokey. So my question to you guys, and Alan, I'll start with you. My question to you, Alan, is pretty like what was your initial thought when you heard this? And then secondly, I don't know what to do with Kyrie, because I believe he's a good dude who's trying to make the world a better place. I just don't think this is the hill to die on.
I'm glad you picked me. I'm not glad you picked me. Kyrie's a different dude, and usually I appreciate that so much. I wish that, and you stated it well, but I wish he was a touch clearer on exactly what he stands for sometimes, because he does leave for a lot of wiggle room and a lot of unclear stuff. I think I may have joked with all of you when this first came up. It's like, we all could have warned KD that this is what he was in for. That this was not going to be a dude who was just going to, be like, yeah, we're going to go win a bunch of titles together. I hate to go down this road, but the shittiest part of all of this is that the degree to which information has been politicized makes it really, really difficult to navigate these waters. Normally, in a circumstance when a guy's saying he wants to stand up for the group that he thinks isn't being heard, I mean, I would jump in line for that 100 times out of 100. But it's tough for me to see exactly where he's going with this, aside from this guy who was able to go to Duke and only play 18 games, and he's never really had any worries in his life, and he got a narrative / LeBron title, made one really big shot, kind of made him think he's probably a little bit better than he is. And he turned into this soothsayer. And I just wish I could talk to him so I could know more what's going on there and decipher if this is just, the typical guy that all of us would have run into on college campuses who think they're, 3 times smarter than they really are. Or is this a guy who really gives a shit and is just trying to do whatever he can? And, we just don't live in a world where that's easy to know. I mean, my knee-jerk reaction, though, is like, if you want to support the working man, there's a lot of ways that you could do it and still play basketball every night with the people who worked to be on a basketball team with you. There's a lot of ways that you can do that. You get interviewed in the locker room every single evening. I'm not belittling anything by saying this, but the NBA loves a T-shirt message. There's a lot of stuff he could do to support people that could still involve him. Yeah.
And he does. He does a lot of that stuff
he puts his
already.
Where his mouth is in a lot of ways. I would love if he would, I think he's in the position, because I think the tough thing about this vaccination piece is when you hear athletes say that, well, I'm a top 1% athlete, I've got nothing to fear from COVID. They also have nothing to fear from the vaccine for the same reason, and other reasons. But so it's tough for me. This is a really tough one for me to unpack. I've seen Whitlock and others try to compare him to Ali. Anti-war is a lot cleaner of a stance than don't get your COVID vaccine when you've been getting vaccines for most of your life. So this one's messy. I wish it wasn't happening because he's a delight. Him and KD, Harden's kind of Harden, but him and KD could do some magical things. But this one's a tough one for me. Normally I have lines in the sand on stuff, but this one I haven't unpacked all the way yet.
That's fair. Brian, what do you think of Kyrie?
Oh man, it's a tough one because I would agree with you, Alan. I mean, I think this aside, yeah, the dude's a little quirky, but I think we could agree he's a good dude. I mean, he paid salaries for WNBA players who opted out and were losing salary for not playing in the bubble. He's bought books and backpacks for kids for school. He does a lot of work with Native Americans who in their cause. So, the dude puts his money where his mouth is. But I just feel like and this is, we kind of talked about this on the previous pod in terms of like LeBron and like the megaphone that he has and his advocacy for things. But just take his name out, but just put anybody who's in that position. You have a megaphone. You have an opportunity to speak on things that a lot of people can't. So for you to kind of forego that megaphone to talk about the things that you care about, like, I wouldn't question that he doesn't care about them, but I guess you're kind of shorting yourself that opportunity to speak on the things that really bother you or the things that really affect you. As it pertains to the vaccine, though, and this is where I think it kind of gets tricky, because I mean, I think we all heard what Draymond Green said about, the vaccines and teammates doing it or not doing it. I think you have the argument that if you're all in, and if you're truly close to a championship like the Nets are favored to be, why would you not take it? Because you have a really good opportunity to get it. I think the NBA kind of, well, like with most sports, they're not going to mandate it, but I think they're kind of taking the easy way out by leaning back on what the state and local municipalities, what the law is or what the regulations are. I just feel like at the end of the day, I think I'm tired of COVID. You guys are tired of COVID. We're all tired of COVID. The sooner people get vaccines, the sooner we can get past this shit and we can get back to, I don't know, that the life that we knew before COVID is probably over, but we could probably get as close to it as we can. I don't really have a whole lot of sympathy for him at all, because you could take it and reduce your chance and all those things that they tell you about the vaccine. But I kind of I fall with the Nets on this one. You have the right not to take it. You have the right, they have the right to not pay you and or not be employed. I think people are just at a point now, listen, man, we got not a solidified way out of this, but we got the door cracked. We got a way to really kind of change this thing. So either you're kind of with it or you're not. And if you're not, I don't agree with Ben Shapiro very often, but he said the argument about the vaccine, its efficacy is over. Like, it's over at this point. So people need to make their choices and live with their consequences. So that's what Kyrie has chose to do. So he's willing to lose $16 million. I guess at this point, $32 million. But if he's willing to live with that, I mean, I guess so am I.
All right, good point. Good point. Pat, are you team Kyrie on this?
Oh, I mean, he's never really bothered me, like you guys have all pointed out. He's just been, kind of an interesting guy.
We've all known a Kyrie in our lives at some point.
Yeah, for sure. And he's a dude that's like, he's 1 minute he says the earth is flat. He might have said something about the moon landing being fake. Who knows? But, ultimately, it's a decision he's making. The team has to address it however they feel like they want to address it. And it sounds like they were like, nah, you're not going to play 41 games. We'll just move on without you. So it's weird. I mean, I honestly never thought this was going to shake out, where you got some people that aren't going to do it. But, God bless him. Let him do whatever he wants. I think the stage is set, though, for potentially the greatest comeback ever, and that's Steve Nash, comeback player coach.
That's something I had not considered at all.
Well, think about it. He's only, 46, 47? I mean, Tom Brady's still playing. I mean, he's probably not in NBA shape, but, I mean, he could give you 18, 19, 20 minutes a night at this age, just distribute the ball. I mean, let's think about that. Let's start that on Twitter. Nash for point guard.
I mean, if he gets on that Tom Brady cocktail, he'll be ready to go in 2 weeks.
By this logic, Jordan in his 60s is going to give you guys 7 to 9 minutes a night. By this logic.
Well, no, Nash is when he retired in 2015, whatever it was. It wasn't that long ago. 2014, I don't remember, but
it was earlier than that. Because he was a consultant for the Warriors team that won.
Not even that. He was playing on the Lakers at the end with Kobe and Dwight Howard. That's 10 years ago.
Hold on, let me look it up. Let's see. Hang on.
Well, while you're looking that up, I am going to point out that if Kyrie was white and 5'9", he probably would.
Cole Beasley.
He would have been that bearded guy.
Cole Beasley
that we all walked by after parties on the way to the dorm room, playing his fucking acoustic guitar, acting all deep and shit, trying to pick up chicks. I mean, let's just call it what it is.
Smoking cloves.
He played his last season in the 2013-2014 season, and he only played 15 games. So I'm guessing he didn't make it to 2014.
Yeah, so it's fair to say he's been retired for 8 or 9 years now.
Yeah, I mean that was more of a joke, but listen, it's a funny thought.
No, it is a funny thought.
Businesses can always do what they want. They left this up to the players to decide, and the players said, "Sorry, we don't need you part time." So
I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I just think he's wrong. I just flat think he's wrong about this. And that's not to say that he doesn't care or doesn't. It's not anything about that. To me, if you acknowledge, and this is based on reports, if you acknowledge that there's nothing wrong with the vaccine and that the vaccine works, you are just not going to take it off of some principled stand to give voice to the voiceless. I'm sorry, but no, Kyrie, no, I'm not. No, no. I really struggle with this coming from him. I don't want to be rude or disrespectful, but if we're going to be honest with each other, you dribble a basketball for a living. This is not the hill to die on. It just isn't. All this work that you're doing with Native American communities and historically black colleges and paying for WNBA salaries, yes, you are making a difference and you should continue to do that work. But when you say I'm not getting vaccinated for whatever reason, you're also saying you reserve the right to get someone else sick. And that's where Al and I, or Brian, whichever one of you guys said it, about the whole, well, people want to compare you to Ali and the whole, war thing. It's no. If you get tennis elbow, I have no chance of getting tennis elbow. But if you get COVID, and regardless if you're vaccinated or not, I might get COVID. On principle, this is not the hill to die on. Then, if Ted Cruz is agreeing with you, you might want to reevaluate your position. That's all I'm saying.
And Sage Steele.
Yeah, this just isn't the hill to die on. And so I applaud, Brooklyn, not even applaud them. They did what they had to do, or they did what they were supposed to do. But I'm not going to lie. If I am his teammate, can you imagine if Kyrie played with Jordan and he told Jordan, I'm not taking the vaccine? There would have been a murder at the practice facility. Yeah. What do you mean you're not taking the vaccine? It would have been that story would have been way bigger than John Gruden this week. Jordan, you're gonna see it breaking. They're gonna come wake you up at 3 a.m, like when Osama bin Laden got killed, to tell you that Jordan just murdered 75 people at a practice facility because he blacked out because Kyrie told him, I'm not taking the vaccine on this principle stand. If we are this close to a title, and you're telling me that this might be so if you're LaMarcus Aldridge or you're Blake Griffin or you're James Harden and this is your best chance to get a title and this guy's not going to do that but claim we're a team, man, get the fuck out of here, man. I'm not trying to hear that bullshit. I kind of go back to what LeBron said. My job is to make sure that I'm available for my team. And the best way I can be available for my team is to take this vaccine. Not to mention, because I just saw this morning, 77% of people over the age of 12 have taken the vaccine now. We have the opportunity to get this thing under control, and you, on some principle, are going to do. No, I'm sorry. No, Kyrie, you're fucking wrong, bro. You're just fucking wrong about this shit. And it blows my mind that you think that you're going to be a voice for the voiceless. That's not the hill to die on, bro. It just isn't. I'm sorry. It's not.
Dennis, I agree. And when I put myself in the shoes of KD, you know what I think of? Like, you'll probably remember old text messages from a few years ago, but remember the looks that LeBron was giving his teammates in Miami when they were getting their ass beat that last year against San Antonio. And it's like
game 1 specifically, where he kind of like sat on the scorer's table like,
yeah,
what are we doing here? And that's when he knew he had to go. Like, this team's out of gas. We don't have it.
Yeah, and then 36 hours later, people are tracking plane rides and shit and blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, okay, he's in Cleveland and he's orchestrated 47 trades and blah, blah, blah. I think about it similarly where, like, Kevin Durant especially is sitting there being like, really? You know, we talked about this. We talked about what we're doing. I mean, I don't care if Harden's feelings are hurt. I mean, fuck. He's not going to play the defense or try off the ball anyways. But I would be real. God, I would love to know the inner workings of what's going on there from a chemistry standpoint.
Well, you also, too, think about if you're KD now, this is part of your legacy because you left Steph and the Warriors for this.
For this bullshit. You left for this bullshit. Can you imagine if Kobe was living and Kyrie says, I'm not taking a vaccine? Kobe's on the first fucking flight to Brooklyn to say, what the fuck is wrong with you? And then he murders him in the practice facility. Jordan and Kobe combine and kill him. What are we talking about? And that was your guy. I just don't get it. Please, somebody explain to me. It makes no sense to me. This is not the hill you want to die on. You do not, like, you just don't want to do this, bro. Like, this is not it. It just is, no. Come on, man. You got to be smarter than that. You just got to be smarter than that.
Yeah. I mean, you'd hope, but, you know, at the end of the day, man, people make their choices, and you know you got to live with your choices. So he feels as though that's what's in his best interest. Fine.
I'm telling you, if he was my teammate and we got close to a title that we could have won and didn't because he wasn't there, I'm telling you now, it's either don't ever speak to me again, or it's what Randy Moss said about Jason Whitlock this week, on site. I don't want to hear it. On site. If this was my one chance and you could have been there and you know, not to mention he's already a part-time player where he takes all these days off for well, you know, I woke up this morning and I wasn't feeling like it, and they pay you a lot of money, bro. They pay you a lot of money.
Let's bring it full circle. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm not quoting here, but I'm pretty sure John Gruden would call him a pussy. But you know, that's
that's pretty accurate.
He's not a man's man, right? You know, something along those lines.
Gruden may have even already called him a pussy and just didn't email it. He probably just thought he would say that to his friends. Like, what do you think this pussy's doing? Not out there going to play because he's gonna, you know, make a social stand for those that are going to lose their jobs. I get what you're saying, Dennis. I just think that these guys, you know, they're not Jordan. They're not the Bird, the Magic, the old guys that are ultra competitive, and they're just not. It's just a different breed of guy now. And for better or worse, that's just who we have to deal with.
Pat, you just made me think of something. George Carlin had a bit years ago, and he called it the continued pussification of America.
Yeah.
And in that bit, he talks about how these child names have gotten soft over time with names like Tyler and Tucker and all of this. Like it just feeds into that. And I'm not. There's no direct correlation between those two things. I'm just making a joke. But I get it, Kyrie, and I want you to do all of your philanthropic things and all of that, but bro, this just ain't the hill to die on, man. Like, I get you want to save the world, and I get you want to do all of that, but just fundamentally, like, this just doesn't make sense on any level. Like, it just really, really doesn't. And again, by you not getting vaccinated, you're saying you reserve the right to get someone else sick. It's not a private matter anymore. If you can get me sick, there's nothing private about that.
Well, is this a conspiracy theory too? Think about this for a moment. He's got a championship. KD has a championship. Is this like his way of like, you know what? We don't really like Harden. We didn't really want him here. So fuck it. I'm just going to sit this one out. I'm only 27 or however old he is.
If that's true and I'm Harden, it's on site when I see him.
But on the flip
it's
side,
on site when
but
I
on
see
the flip side, if KD's foot is like an inch the other way, they could have won the title without him. So you really don't even need him. Yeah, last year. So you don't need him.
Yeah,
but it'd be a hell of a lot easier with him.
It'd be a hell of a lot easier with him, sure. But do you really need him?
I don't know, but I think it goes back to something that Alan said, that he never wanted to play sidecar to LeBron, forced his way out after the 2017 season, only to go back to LeBron 2 or 3 seasons later and be like, I get what you were trying to do because it's hard to lead these dudes in Boston. Like he wanted to be the man, then became the man, and then understood, oh, it's not easy to wear the crown.
Well, that end, because he hit one shot and happened to be a really bad matchup for an historic team. I think that he probably got a little outsized view of what he was. And I mean, he's a talented guy. I mean, he's a great player. Is he top 50? Maybe
top 75.
But like,
no, he's not top 75. There's 75 guys in the history of this league that are better than Kyrie Irving.
He had a weird stretch where the league made a decision to slow some things down. He happened to hit a big shot. He's really good at dribbling between his legs really quickly in front of at the top of the key, and he can finish a lot of different ways. And if you're 6'4" like Steph Curry is, and you don't lay on his right hand, he might be able to hit a wing three. So he's a real talented guy. I just think that there are some limited events that gave him an outsized idea of what he really is in terms of overall NBA and world impact.
Well, when you're a guy whose entire career, and this is pretty much anybody playing professional football or basketball these days, these guys are all, they're sought after. They're always in the media eye, coming all the way back to their high school days. So, what kind of narcissism does this breed in a person, right? I don't know. That's just a thought. It's probably a bad thought, but
no, it's not a bad thought. I just really struggle with this because I just don't. I understand you want to take a principled stance on things because people do take principled stance at some point in their lives on certain things. I'm just saying this is not the hill to die on. And I know that I'm passing judgment on what hills people should die on. That's not lost on me. But bro, in a global pandemic, in a major health crisis, this is not the hill to die on.
Well, I guess one of the things I was talking with a coworker, and one of the things we talked about, because they were, they had hesitation about masks. They were just kind of, if I get it, I get it. I don't want to do it. It's stupid. I should have the choice. Vaccine mandates, yada yada yada. So the only thing that I said to them, I was just trying to put it in a different context. Like, okay, so let's put it this way. If you don't want to wear your mask, don't wear your mask. You don't want to get a vaccine, don't get the vaccine. But then you don't have the right in my opinion, don't complain about this pandemic, about people dying, or somebody. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but somebody in your family that dies, or somebody, all these things that go along with the pandemic, because we're all tired of it, we're all fatigued of it. The one thing I just looked at, I was like, so the question I would have to ask you is, how much longer do you want to deal with this? Because the answer's here. You could wear the mask, you can get the shot, and we could, as a collective, try to put this thing to bed or as close to it as we possibly can. Because there are some people, forget the people who are anti-vax. There are some people who are immunocompromised, or there may be some reason, and I don't want to get into what air quotes legitimate reason, but there are people who cannot take it for whatever reason. But as many people as we can, let's get this thing done. But my question was, how much longer do you want to deal with this? Because I know I don't want to deal with this. I think we've been dealing with this way too long. And I think collectively, if you polled a lot of people, they would tell you, yeah, we're kind of over this. We're kind of done. So Kyrie, what I would ask him is, okay, you don't want to get you don't want to get the vaccine. Okay, that's your choice. I'm not going to try to sway you one way or the other, but I would ask you, how much longer do you want to deal with this? How much longer do the people that you interact with, how much longer do you think they want to deal with this? The people who you are going to have a voice for, you want to speak for the vaccine mandates and the people who were hourly and everything like that. Like, you're a good dude. You want to help these people. But how much longer do you think they can hold out on this?
Is he going to pay their salary? All these people that are going to lose their jobs?
That's what I'm saying.
Is he going to pay? Is he going to pay all they like? Where does this stop? Where does this stop? Come on, Kyrie. You just being silly now.
And that's my point. So how much longer do you want to deal with this? So we can deal with this indefinitely, or we can wear a mask and get the vaccine.
Because if he was Bezos and had that type of money, Bezos just flew Captain Kirk to the moon and back today. You know what I mean? If you got that kind of money and want to take that principle stand because you could afford it, cool. But come on, man. You can't even afford to take this principle. So you ain't going to replace these people's the money in their pocket. No.
Well, that's the thing. You can afford to take that stand, but the people that you're speaking for, that you claim to be speaking for, they can't.
And did these people ask you to speak for them? That's a huge assumption that these people who are voiceless, took a vote and picked Kyrie Irving to speak for them. That is such an arrogant assumption.
Dennis, that's my issue with it, right? You just hit it nail on the head. When people who can afford to miss a paycheck for forever start to represent people who work paycheck to paycheck, I have a problem with it. These are not the same worlds.
Exactly. Our struggles are not the same.
Yeah, and you start to give people a spiritual or social support that is not lined up with the world they live in and the world that their family depends on.
Yeah.
100%. I just think it's an arrogant position to take. If you were saying, I don't trust it, the other comment I hate is, well, I need to do research. Well, wait a minute. You're going to go to Google like the rest of us. You're not about to do real, legitimate academic research. You're going to be lazy as hell, and you're going to go to Google like the rest of us. But
or show us your research.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Oh, no, dog ate my homework. Sorry. I don't have it. Forgot it at home. So, yeah, I don't know. So that's so let me ask you guys this, and we can end on this. Assuming Kyrie doesn't play for the Nets all year, who do you think comes out of the East, and who do you think wins the title, assuming Kyrie doesn't play all year?
Is it Alan? Is it safe for Knicks talk? No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Knicks corner. Everybody, we have now entered the Knicks corner.
Yeah, boy, did we go down the wrong hallway here, folks?
Oh, I tell you what, I think I haven't really done my NBA preview yet, so you'll have to bear with me. Just based off memory, I think that the Heat are interesting. I don't think the Hornets are there, just quite there. Call me crazy. But I would probably put my money if it's not Brooklyn, I'd say give me Milwaukee.
I think the safe money's on Milwaukee. Assuming Kyrie's out all year, I think the safe money's Milwaukee simply because they've built up scar tissue and have some institutional knowledge.
Because you can't trust Boston. I can't trust Boston. I want to, but I can't.
I respect that.
And Philly, I don't know what the hell's going on over there.
Who is Boston's head coach?
Ime Udoka.
Ime Udoka, yeah.
I mean,
longtime Spurs assistant.
The fact that it's not Brad Stevens, they've got a chance. But
he's married to Nia Long, by the way, too. So I'm pulling for him because of that.
But I'll let somebody else chime in before I start with my.
Pat, who comes out of the East?
Well, I think the smart money is probably Milwaukee, just like you said. I mean, they have the lineage, so to speak, of having just been there. They have the best player in the league overall. I think you could probably say Giannis probably the best overall player in the league right now. So, yeah, I mean, Philadelphia's a shit show. I want to believe in the Knicks. I will be pulling for the Knicks personally this season in the East. Boston, I guess there's a chance. They got a puncher's chance. But
also Atlanta.
Excuse me.
I was going to say, there's no Hawks love out here?
God
Jesus
damn you,
Christ.
Cubs, you stole my fucking thunder.
I forgot about the Hawks.
Sorry. I'll put myself on mute. I'll hang up and listen.
I was trampling in with the Trae Young. Took the Bucks to 7 without two guys. Cam Reddish is ready to step into a big 3-and-D role. I got the Hawks. Coming out of the East.
Hot take, everybody.
Well, it doesn't matter because LeBron's going to get his 5th at the end of this. So,
I will.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Well, hold on. Hold that thought. So I'm going to say this. I think Kyrie comes back because I'm not convinced that he's going to be out all year. Even Ben Simmons came back when he found out they were going to withhold $8 million from him. I think he comes back. I don't think he sits out all year. I don't care how principled he thinks he is. I think he comes back. And I think, assuming everybody's healthy, I think it's Brooklyn. But when it comes to the West, I honestly think it's a crapshoot. I don't trust this Laker team, that this Laker team will get to the finish healthy. Like, I'm sorry. They are a sprained ankle and a sprained knee away from being a 7 seed again. Like, I don't trust them. I don't know who comes out of the West, but it's must-see TV.
Because I'd like to throw my hat in the ring with my former hometown Phoenix Suns, but I feel like that was lightning in a bottle. I don't know if they can do that 2 years in a row.
Not because they didn't pay Ayton. I think the chemistry's off there.
Yeah, I think there's that. I mean, Denver's always an interesting watch. I would really love for Dame to get out of Portland because he's not going to win there. And I think he knows that. He's just trying to be a loyal company guy. But yeah, I have no idea. I guess if gun to my head, I guess I would pick the Lakers just because they have the experience of people who've been there before, so they can kind of figure it out and load manage their way to a 3 seed. But also you get Clay back in Golden State. So
I borderline want to fight you because you just said that they could load manage their way to a 3rd seed. That is up there and akin to wide receiver number 1. Like people who talk like that. Like the idea that they would load manage their way to a 3 seed, God, that pisses me off.
Well, I mean, they're not the Clippers. I mean, is Kawhi even coming back?
It's highly doubtful. I will say the team I want to make the finals is Denver. I want a healthy Jamal Murray. I want to see that team in the finals or the basketball purist in me would love to see Utah. That would be a ratings killer, but I love the way Utah plays.
I'll tell you. I'm with you, Dennis. A Western Conference Finals of Golden State and Utah would be freaking beautiful.
Styles make fights. I agree.
And it would be even more beautiful because that meant one of them knocked off LeBron and the other one knocked off Portland. So, I mean, that's a Final Four in the Western Conference that is exhilarating. I mean,
wait, you're saying Portland's a Final Four team in the West?
I think they still are. When you have a top 6 player, you're a top 6 player.
Nah, I'm sorry. Can't see it. They've only done it. They've only been in the conference final once with Dame. I can't see it. They can't stay healthy.
But who's so we've got Golden State, Lakers, Portland, Utah. Who else is better than Portland?
I think Phoenix is better than them. I would say in a 7-game series, I would take Luka and Dallas over them.
Depending on which Paul George you get, you might say the Clippers.
Yeah, depending on which Paul George I get, absolutely. I would take the Clippers right now over them. Based on what I saw last year, I would take the Clippers over Portland right now.
I don't think I'm going there. Any conversation that starts with Paul George being anything he's well past his prime.
No, I would take Utah, the Lakers, the Clippers, the Suns, Dallas, Golden State. That's 6 teams right now I'd take over Portland. I'm not saying they don't make the playoffs. You know, honestly,
what a loaded conference. Jesus.
I mean, yes, I mean, honestly, but honestly though, in going toe to toe, I would roll a dice with Memphis.
I mean, Ja's a problem.
See, that's what I'm saying. Ja's a problem. I'll roll the dice on Memphis. You know, I'm not taking Houston. I'm not taking San Antonio or Minnesota. I'm not taking
New Orleans.
I'm not taking whoever I'm not thinking
Sacramento.
of. Yeah, nah, they're blue balls. They're dick tees. Like they're not.
They're really good. The league makes it very clear that they do not want the Kings to win. So
no.
We can put them to the side.
Yeah. Like I'm not worried about the Kings. The Kings, I feel confident in saying the Kings in my lifetime will never win. They had the best chance with Weber and those guys, and the league fucked them. I'm sorry.
Listen. That is a game Dennis and I used to entertain ourselves with. Like it's called In Your Lifetime. Like in your lifetime, do you think you'll ever see the Kings win the NBA championship?
No.
In your lifetime,
I feel confident about that.
No,
I don't think that happens.
After that series, hell no.
The only team that makes me nervous about that, Brian, honestly, hand to God, is the Cleveland Browns, because they finally feel like they are a competent football team. But I gotta see it. I still gotta see it.
No, I'm pretty confident where I've lived. I've not necessarily been a Browns fan. I'm pretty confident the league has decided the Browns and Bills will never win. No worries there.
Oh no, I don't buy that Bills talk this year. After what I saw Sunday, I don't buy that Bills talk.
I'm not saying they're not good. I'm just saying they won't be allowed to win.
Well, they let Kansas City win. They were kind of like the Bills.
That's because they had the mini Michael Jordan of the league there for a second.
See, I feel like that's true of Jacksonville. I feel like no matter what Jacksonville does, Jacksonville will never win a title because it was a mistake to give them a team.
Oh, well, they certainly won't now. Their coach has got his fingers up buttholes. So
this might be our cue.
I was going to say, yeah, that's probably.
You knew I wasn't going to
gone from podcast to.
Come on, Pat. You just said he went bowling in his own bar with some ass. Come on now.
Well, he did, and that's for him and Shelley to figure out. That's not for me to decide.
Well, if you're looking for a bow to put on it, the Buffalo Bills still have O.J. Simpson in their Ring of Honor. So if they have O.J. Simpson who killed 2 people.
Really? They do?
Sorry, allegedly.
Because he's still looking for the killers. So, seriously, he's still in their Ring of Honor.
They took Gruden out of Tampa Bay that fast.
So that's my point. If O.J. Simpson, alleged murderer of two people and convicted armed robber, is still in the Buffalo Bills Ring of Honor, I feel like we could have taken our time with Gruden. Not saying not to remove him. I feel
they moved way too quick.
I think they moved a little too quickly. So there's your bow.
I saw somebody pointed out that they removed John Gruden from the Ring of Honor, but this is a team that just signed Richard Sherman. You know,
and Antonio Brown. Like you guys didn't think this through at all.
And in the Ring of Honor is Warren Sapp, who they had. If Dallas had the White House, the Tampa people, they had the Batcave.
Oh no, I don't know this. Please tell this real quick. I don't know anything about this. I don't know anything about this Tampa business.
So the infamous Michael Irvin and all the guys that spend so much money on hotels in Dallas, they all just went in and bought a house together, and they called it like the White House or something like that.
Yeah, it was all strippers and cocaine and everything.
Yeah. So the players in Tampa did the same thing, and they called it the Batcave.
Shut the fuck up! I've never heard this.
Yeah. So
it was all like Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks and Ronnie Barber.
I know Warren Sapp was a player, but I don't know. I don't know all the players. I know Warren Sapp was one of them because he admitted it. So, and not to mention all the other things that Warren Sapp has been arrested for, and he has done in his post-playing career, in addition to Sherman and Antonio Brown. To make the statement about Gruden that doesn't jive with our corporate or with our team values and how we feel. I'm like, yeah, but like if you're playing that game, I think we all kind of agree that that's kind of a bullshit statement. But if you're playing that game and you're really going to take it there, then there's a lot of people you're going to have to reevaluate.
So I'm going to say this
is history here.
Yeah. So I'm going to say this. And I think we can end it here. I think what the four of us need to do is open a rehab facility for very bad people and help to rehabilitate them. And our first two clients are going to be John Gruden and the owner of Papa John's.
Agreed.
Because we will devise a system by which we will reprogram your brain so that way when you get pissed off, you don't say all of this batshit crazy things that you think you need to say just because you're pissed, but don't necessarily realize, oh, by the way, I'm super racist and homophobic. Like if we can figure that out, we would make a ridiculous amount of money. We could save a lot of people from themselves.
Just Gruden, because Shaq's got Papa John. Like he's got that. So we'll focus on Gruden.
No. They moved the Papa John guy out. Like they moved him out. I'm saying we could rehabilitate him so he could start another pizza company that we could get a percentage of, is what I'm saying.
Gotcha. Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Well, I used to have this idea years ago. Remember when Pac-Man Jones was getting in trouble and stuff? I thought I should start a company. It's just like it's called a common sense coordinator. And, he's in your entourage. And basically what his job is, when you go to do that thing, like, I don't know, like get a garbage sack full of money, he's going to pull you aside. And you sign the contract. And he's going to be like, we got to go right now. And you got all your people got to go too. Everybody's got to leave. And that was going to be my business model. Like, it wasn't for every client, but for a number of people, this would have benefited them. Like, he's going to, what was that, Steven Jackson in the parking lot of this titty bar in Indianapolis? That would have been.
That's a great story.
We would have pulled Steven Jackson aside, like, "Hey, my man, that's we're gonna wrap this up right now. Go ahead and put that gun away." And then you'd have to do it.
Do you understand the insurance we'd have to carry to make that work?
It would be ridiculous.
Yeah, man. Like
someone would do it.
There's a lot of hazard pay there.
There is, but we got plenty of people out there that want to do that. If we can fund, companies like Blackwater or whatever, these ex-military guys, we could get some of these people to be out there doing common sense coordinating for troubled athletes. It was a business plan I had years ago.
Common sense coordinator.
Yeah,
I love it.
He's not affiliated with your people, your crew. He's a staff, and I'm going to sit there. I'm going to look at what's going on. I'm going to evaluate everything. I'm going to grab you by the arm and go, "We got to go right now," even if you're having a good time. Because I've already read the room. I know what the temperature is. I know what's going on. Urban Meyer could have used this the other night down at this bar in Dublin. As soon as I saw him grinding, I was like, Coach, I'm going to talk to you real quick. We're
Hey,
gonna
man,
have
this
to
ain't
go
it.
right now.
This ain't it.
He'd
This
be
ain't
like,
it.
"No, I'm having a good time. I've had a few beers, Coach."
I think I was more offended by Urban Meyer that he had a salmon-colored Ohio State pullover on more than anything else. Because
I love salmon.
it just screamed, "This is worth $300 and you can't afford it." And I think that's what offended me the most.
No, I love the troll that Day had because that happened that Thursday night or the Friday or whenever it was that weekend when they lost. When Day came to the press conference on Monday, he wore the same fucking thing.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, same fucking thing.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the troll. That's a top 10 troll right there.
God bless.
Well, at this point, then John Gruden might own one as well. On that note, guys, I want to thank you guys for jumping on. This is fun, and just want to encourage everybody who took the time to listen to this episode. Make sure to email the pod at talltattededucated@gmail.com and let us know what you think about this episode. And with that, we'll holler at you guys later. Appreciate you guys jumping on.